Imagine watching an NBA draft and seeing this.
Los Angeles Lakers select
this chair. Yes, that happened. And then this.
NBA draft. The Utah Jazz select
a woman who was pregnant who ended up in the Hall of Fame. Okay. We know they weren't the number 2 and number 30 picks, but they were actually drafted. Number 139 and 160 something to be exact. Not only did this NBA draft have this, they also had Scooby Doo and a Waterboy being drafted as well. In general, the NBA draft is one of the most exciting moments for basketball fans around the world. From the conspiracy theories surrounding some of them, to the hope it brings fans. It's like Christmas, but instead of a fat man breaking into your house via chimney, it's Adam Silver. For teams in the cellar, it's a chance to draft a franchise player that will right the ship. For contenders, the search for a diamond in the rough sometimes yields amazing results. But if there's one definitive thing we've learned over the years, it's that the draft is a crapshoot. Also, no matter what, every fan base will inevitably and instantly believe whoever their team chooses will end up being the next big thing. Well, unless you're a Knicks fan. All you can do is do your homework, keep an open mind, and then hope your guy pans out. That, and, remember the likelihood of a team actually drafting the next MJ or LeBron is next to zero. But in order to do that, you gotta use your pick on someone that has a chance of success, even if it's a tiny chance. None of this happened in the 1977 NBA draft. In fact, teams did the opposite. Instead of going for guys who would improve their franchise, teams burned picks on inanimate objects. This is the story of the infamous 1977 NBA draft, a ClutchPoints original mini documentary. Before you start berating the idiot owners who essentially wasted draft picks, there is a small detail that we have to cover. Before 1989, the NBA draft had a whopping 8 rounds. Think about that for a second. 2 rounds might be too many, as most players selected don't end up making it in the NBA. Imagine if there were 8 rounds today. The 2 guard from Boise State who shot 29% from 3? He'd be a 6th round selection even though he is objectively horse. So instead of 60 draft picks, there were 170. And by the time teams got to the 7th or 8th rounds, the talent pool had pretty much run dry. To counter this, teams had to think out of the box. The Jazz decided to make history with the 139th pick in the draft. They selected Louisa Harris, who would go down as the first and currently the only woman picked in the NBA draft. Harris wasn't just a blind pick. In 4 years at Delta State, she averaged nearly 30 points a game and 14 rebounds per game. Unfortunately for the Jazz, Harris never even tried out for them. She would reveal that she was pregnant at the time she was drafted and never played an NBA game. Still, Harris would be inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame in 1992. Great pick by the Jazz in hindsight, obviously. Malone, Stockton, Harris. Names that will forever stir the echoes of greatness in Utah or something like that. Just 2 picks later, the Kings were on the board. They hilariously topped Utah's Hall of Fame pick by selecting an Olympic gold medalist. Bruce Jenner, now known as Caitlyn, was scooped up by the Kansas City Kings with the 139th pick. Jenner hadn't played basketball since high school, but he was still a world-class athlete, having dominated the Olympics and the cereal box scene. The Kings knew that the pick was partly a joke as soon as they made it. They presented Jenner a jersey with the number 8618 in reference to his gold medal winning decathlon time. Jenner never suited up for the Kings, but the famous athlete certainly gained the organization a lot of publicity. Speaking of publicity, the next 2 selections were purely based on generating attention to a league that badly needed it. With no standout talent on the board, the Lakers punted in the most creative form. The storied franchise first attempted to draft both Scooby Doo, the fictional mystery-cracking dog detective. The laughable pick was quickly vetoed by the league. Undaunted, the Lakers went less bold with their next pick, a wooden chair. Fed up with the LA shenanigans, the NBA was forced to veto their pick once again. Should have bribed the league with some Scooby snacks, am I right? After observing this sequence, the Boston Celtics realized they couldn't pick fictional characters or inanimate objects. So the team switched it up and selected a living, breathing person. In reality, the pick was no better than the Lakers, because that person was a team water boy. Unsurprisingly, the boy played just as many minutes as all the other picks listed above combined, 0. Which oddly enough is how many minutes I played in the NBA. Basically, Scooby Doo and I are the same. Big facts. After this fiasco of a draft, the league was forced to open its eyes and look for changes. The days of the 170-pick, 8-round draft were numbered. In 12 years, the draft became much closer to the event that we know and love today. 2 rounds, 60 picks, and no water boys allowed. Still, part of me believes, even while knowing it would be a disaster, they should bring it back. I mean, you just know if Sam Hinkie got another GM gig somewhere, he'd make moves to draft John Wick in the 6th round. And who isn't here for that?